bookies' favorites
For the World Cup.
2026 are in order: Spain, England, and France. And then after that, it's Brazil and the current world champions, Argentina.
Okay.
Now, bearing in mind that odds are often determined by flows of money and stuff like that, and that the World Cup is far into the future, and who's good now might not be good, they may not be fit, they might not be on form, blah, blah, blah. All these caveats out of the way. Are we in agreement that these are the three best teams in the world? First of all, Spain, England, and France?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I would put Argentina in the same bracket pretty much. The Messi factor obviously depends a lot on how Argentina do and what kind of form he's in, and it's very much built around him. But yeah, I'll have Argentina on the same level, and then a little bit below Brazil, and then after that, the likes of Germany, for example. But yeah, those three plus Argentina for me are the main ones.
Right.
And if we focus on them three, I mean, you've got teams that reached the last World Cup final, team that are the current European champions, and the other team that lost in that Euro final and the one before too. So definitely the three best in Europe.
So when I look at this and I sort of project forward what I think the lineups would be, one of the things that jumps out at me, and first of all, I agree. I would have them all really very much on the same level in my view, right?
And Portugal a little bit, because we didn't mention Portugal, but Portugal a little
yes.
bit below with Germany and Brazil. I think just below, not much below, but just below.
We need to fulfill our contractual obligation. We have to mention
Absolutely.
Cristiano Ronaldo when mentioning Portugal, of course. So on the tube right over here, I'm thinking, all right, let me make a combined 11 in my head
Okay.
from these three: Spain, England, and France. And I'm really not being mean to England. I thought, all right, in my 4-3-3,
Yeah.
I might have Declan Rice, and then I couldn't think of anybody else. But then I thought, like, okay, like Kane and Mbappe, there isn't much in it at center forward,
true.
right?
Yeah.
So it would be very, very close. Are you along the same lines that in terms of kind of outstanding individuals out of these three, maybe like Spain and France might edge it?
Yeah, probably a little bit. Although you could look at, I don't know, Phil Foden at his best or Cole Palmer at his best. Do they make your very attacking 4-3-3 in a kind of a number 8 position? Maybe. But
then
yeah.
then Declan Rice would move out because I'm still having Rodri and Pedri.
Yeah,
everybody's fit at the
true.
best,
Yeah,
right?
that's very true. So yeah, it's probably tougher, and maybe this England team is less based on pure individual brilliance and more on the collective that Thomas Tuchel is trying to build, and that Gareth Southgate, to be fair to him, as much as I didn't really like him, had built already, and a bit of depth too, certainly in some positions, not in all positions. But the depth is really probably the most striking thing, and the thing in common of those three is that, again, not in every position, but in a lot of positions, they've got a lot of talent available.
I think you hit the nail on the head with the depth. And again, it doesn't perhaps go on to all positions.
No, definitely.
And so quickly now, let's give us sort of 30 seconds on each team just to identify the weak spots, potentially. For me with Spain, and I know the numbers don't underscore this, for me it's still the back four.
Yeah.
Plus goalkeeper. I just don't see them as great individuals and playing the way they do. You can pay a price for that.
Yeah, let's see a right back, Pedro Porro, Carvajal, a left back, Correa, in a World Cup, for example. And then certainly the two centre backs, maybe more than the full backs, but the two centre backs, whether it's Lenormand, Laporte, Vivian, one of the two of those four.
All right. England's weak spot. Are we also going with defense? Do we see a power?
Yeah, I think so. Unless John Stones can stay fit and at a good level, and Mark Gahey could be the right complement to him, which I think they are a very good pair. You just don't know with Stones' fitness, especially. And yeah, even the fullbacks area is a bit lightweight.
Now with France, when I try to, I saw Theo and I know he played well the other day. I'm not a Theo guy at all, but I look at this and I say, is the weak spot? Do France have a weakness at fullback, or is the weakness actually the coach? Which seems absurd given how much France has won, how successful he's been.
Yeah, I don't think Deschamps is the weakness here, because this is his last competition. I think he would want finally to maybe let them play, give them a bit more freedom than what certainly we saw the last Euros. Right back, I don't think is a problem. I think Jules Koundé is one of the best right backs in the world. Left back with Lucas Digne, who is right now the starter ahead of Theo Hernandez. Maybe a little bit more, although you can say that he's got plenty of experience as well. But yeah, that's probably the left back is the one position that it's not as good as the rest.
All right, Jules, we mentioned the combined 11.
Yeah.
Let's try doing this.
Okay.
And some positions I think are going to be tough, which to me suggests why there are weaknesses. All right. We go 4-3-3 because it's what God intended, and it's what France and Spain play most of the time. And it's what England may or may not play.
Yeah.
Our goalkeeper, again, not a super straightforward choice because Unai Simon, if he starts, he's had his critics.
Yeah.
Magic Mike has had his injuries. Jordan Pickford has a million clean sheets, but as we might see later, a lot of it is against kind of the Muppet Show.
Yeah.
I'm going to go for Magic Mike because he's magical.
Yeah. Yeah, I still think he's the best of the three too.
All right. Right back.
Right back, your choice is Carvajal or Pedro Porro. You mentioned that earlier. Trent, I guess, Konsa maybe, or Jules Koundé. And as much as Porro is probably the best crosser of the ball in this list, Trent the best passer for sure, and I guess in a sense crosser. Konsa is a centre back at right back, who is now his position at club level. Koundé was a centre back, is now a right back. I would personally go for Koundé. I think the solidity that he brings, and now even going forwards, is an outstanding player in that position.
Is my love for Tino Livramento, who can play either.
So I've got him on the left.
You have him on the left.
Yeah.
So do I. Wait, let's go to right back. Do we both? Is our dislike of Cucurella and his hair so great that we've put Tino ahead of Luca Dean and Cucurella?
No, Cucurella is still my number one, but I've got Livramento behind him.
Okay. All right. Hey, look. I think the other thing is what we'll see with the Spain team later is also some of these players work, and look, you can't separate the style of play in the system.
Yeah.
They're greater than the sum of their parts in the Spain team. I think that's very obvious, especially when we get to midfield. Our center backs, one of them is going to be William Saliba. Yeah, we're in agreement there.
Agree. Yeah, definitely.
The other one might be a bit more debate. I went for Mark Gay.
Yeah. Ahead of Konate, Upamecano, Kubarsi, or Laporte, or Vivian?
It is a toss-up with Kubarsi. I just can't get over the fact that I find that when he plays for Barcelona, because of the players around him, because of the way that Barcelona play, it's like he's playing a different sport.
Yeah.
And so I have to kind of imagine what he's like and remind myself he's 18 and be like, Pau, don't worry, you can get into the Gab and Juls combined 11 team and then for the next World Cup, or even for the Euros. You got time. Yeah. But Mark Gay, I think with a team like this, you would want like a solid base in the World Cup. So Gay and Saliba for me.
Okay. I would have gone for Konate, but I hear your point about Gay, so let's validate Gay.
All right, midfield at the back. I know it's kind of a virtual thing, but we did say if he's fit and he's on form, anchoring the midfield, we've got Rodri.
Yeah, you have to.
There's no
and
possible
really the
argument.
other options are Tchouaméni, who we love, but not at that level. Not
Zubimendi, who we also love.
Or I get Elliot Anderson, who's probably what you would pick from an England side in there. I think it has to be Rodri.
He can be in the 2030 team with Pau Kubarsi.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, for one of our other ones, I would imagine we're in agreement over Pedri.
Yeah, Pedri, definitely, yeah.
So for the third one, I went with Declan Rice.
Yeah.
It comes with a slight caveat in the sense that if they're going to play the way Spain plays, you probably don't want Declan Rice. You want somebody maybe who's more of a passer. But then again, Declan Rice can make those runs into the box and things like that, which is important. So I'm happy with Rice.
Yeah, I mean, again, the other choices are Fabian Ruiz, Adrien Rabiot. I guess you can put Manu Kone there. But yeah, Rice has been outstanding this season, really. I think he'd do well in this team.
If we talk wingers, it's hard to look past the two people who were first and second in the Ballon d'Or voting.
Yeah.
Those are choices, yes?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, winger is not really Ousmane Dembele's position anymore, but for the sake of our little game, we have to put him there. So Lamine on one side and Dembele on the other side.
Yeah. If you wanted to go with a genuine winger, who would you choose?
I think Olise. I mean, the thing is, on that right-hand side, it's either Olise, Saka, or Lamine.
So stacked.
You've got three who really are all so good to start. So then it's your preference, whatever style you prefer. If you prefer more of a passing style like Olise, I think Saka is a bit of a mix of Lamine, not as dribbling and not as passing maybe as the other two, but a very nice mix between the two that you could have that on the right-hand side. On the other side is Nico Williams or, I don't know, Rashford or Gordon, really. So I think Dembele can have that space and can rotate with Lamine. But I feel a little bit sad for Olise and Saka, but it's probably fair if we go for Lamine.
Our center forward, all right. there's nobody for Spain.
No,
in the
Yazabal,
sense,
you
not
don't want.
not
Okay, fair enough.
again. If you want to play, if Luis de la Fuente is my coach, maybe, but
He might be
he's not,
tempted.
you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
So it's the other two are pretty good, I think, in Harry Kane and Kylian Mbappe. I've gone for Mbappe, but it could just as easily be Kane. Yeah.
yeah, me too. Simply for the youth and the
Fact.
fact that if Ken was from Paris, I probably would be leaning, but nah.
So, in fact, if I were in charge, I might actually be tempted to drop Rice, play 4-2-3-1, and play Kane and Mbappe together.
I would
We're
love to
seeing
see
more
that.
and more 4-2-4. We know Kane can drop.
Yeah.
One comes short, the other one goes long.
Yeah,
Boom, all the
absolutely.
time. And I've got Yamal on one side, and I've got Dembele on the other, and I
Yeah.
have Pedri dinking the ball over the top.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, it's a lot of work for Rodri and his dodgy knees on his own. But hey,
but
know,
yeah,
it's not impossible.
But that's why I need Marguerite in there. at the
yeah,
back.
true.
So, looking at this, just in terms of numbers, we have 2 England players. Trying to see if my theory from before is accurate. We have 2 England players.
Yeah,
We have 4 Spain players,
yeah.
and we have 5 France players. Does that sound about right?
I think so. And again, you could mention that Spain are right now the best team. I know they lost the Nations League final to Portugal on penalties, but they are the best team in Europe for sure. But they also are the best collective, more than, as you mentioned rightly earlier, Gabby.
This is where I struggle with this a little bit. If they're the best collective, then we need to praise the coach, Luis de la Fuente.
Yeah.
And we praise them. I certainly praised them to high heaven during the Euros because I said a lot of these players I don't think are necessarily that good as individuals. Like when we saw at the Euros. When I say that good, I mean not like top 10 in the world or top 5 in the world. There's just so many really good players.
Yeah.
So that's the value add that the coach brings. And yet, for my coach, out of these 3, I would go with Tuchel.
Would you? I think international experience is so valuable. And you know that.
Yeah.
You know that.
That is a valid point. So your choice would be?
Didier.
Come on!
It's his last one, Gab. He's gonna do something special for the last one after 50 years at the helm of the French national team. A lot of finals, more lost than won, but still he won a big one. I don't know. I mean, I guess really De La Fuente should be the answer here. For the most current success in that term, for what he could do with the team collectively, to hold these question marks, obviously, but you're right, he's probably the best coach on a daily basis. And for Deschamps, it's more, if we pick him, it's more like the last dance and the last hurrah of him taking this incredible French team and talent all the way to winning the World Cup before he retires, really.
The last dance means you're saying that Didier Deschamps is the Michael Jordan of national team coaching.
Imagine.
So imagine that. Let's not build him up any more than that. More broadly, when we look at this, Spain, England, and France, you've also have, when we talk about their depth, right? When we talk about sort of production line of talent, what I find kind of interesting is I almost feel like there are 3 sort of models, if you want, of player production. And I'm going to outline them very broadly and simplistically, but we are talking overall here. I feel like England has spent an enormous amount on youth development. They had a blueprint. And this often goes really overlooked because it's not necessarily easy in England for a number of reasons to produce young talent. They spent a lot of money. They went around the world and saying like, "Oh, look, we're producing a lot of guys who just kind of thump the ball. How do we get more quality in? Let's go around the world. Let's hire coaches at youth level, consultants, and so on. Let's learn from them. Let's get best practice."
Yeah.
And now they have an array of technical players that, maybe Brazil and Spain have. I don't think anybody comes close to on the technical side without losing a lot of that physicality.
Yeah, true. I think maybe even more importantly, they've got from the under 21s to the under 17s, the incredible generations coming through. It's impossible to tell now who amongst those teams are going to be, best in the world or what kind of level. But certainly they're winning everything at those age groups, which bodes well for the future, you would think, with those generations. So the future is bright for them.
Now, with Spain, I kind of feel that the emphasis necessarily hasn't changed. There's been more of a winning culture. I think Spain has produced, and it's slightly underrated actually. I think they've produced some exceptional individual coaches, maybe more so. Not just necessarily winning titles at like senior level Champions Leagues and so on, although they've done that too.
Yeah.
But in terms of as like teachers of football coaching, and they've stuck to putting technique first, maybe more than any other country over physicality, right?
That's always been their game, really, even when they were not winning anything.
But it's interesting then, if that's always been their game, you wonder why were they so terrible before? And the argument, maybe it's the winning mentality, maybe it's the tactical nous that's come with it. Maybe it's been the openness also to accept foreign coaches and foreign ideas at tactical level, and kind of overlaying them on their footballing traditions and footballing DNA. With France, obviously the secret's simple. It's just Paris, right?
Yeah, Paris born and bred kid. I mean,
Ile de France, yeah, that's
in
it.
this team, 1, 2,
there you go. I knew.
3,
set you up.
almost 4. This is it. It's just like, no, but it's interesting because we lost our way certainly, in terms of formation in academies at some point.
When would you place that point about?
Well, somebody was telling me the other day about the whole Laurent Blanc kind of fiasco when he said that we were producing back in 2010, 2012, the same kind of players in academy, those strong boys, very physical, who could run a lot and just didn't have much flair or technical ability, and that had to change. I mean, he obviously went too far in this sense, because he was basically saying that, we didn't have enough short white kids, technical, playing in our youth teams and academies.
Not enough Griezmanns.
Yeah, exactly. Probably too many Salibas. I think that's what he meant, which was wrong for him to say that. Maybe not the wrong assessment of where French clubs' academies were at the time. I get that. And certainly my generation also went through a little bit of going for physicality and pace ahead of football IQ and technical abilities. So once you start, it stays for a whole generation, so a good 10 years, really, or even more than that, 15 to 20. They've changed that, really, and you see recent products of academies in France making their debut in Ligue 1. For example, Ligue 1 is the league that gives the most minutes to young players under 18, under 19.
It's the League of Talents.
League of Talent, maybe. And that has changed, which is good. But yeah, I think the potential from academies in France, really, and then players going abroad very quickly and very early to then be better in England, in Italy, in Spain, and in Germany is a massive help.
I think the exporting factor is a huge factor.
Which has always been, really. Let's not kid ourselves here.
But you see this.
France's strength.
Portugal is the other example, which, they all just leave.
So
it creates a gap. At a big club, you're playing in front of 60,000 people at the Estadio da Luz or whatever, and you're 19 years old. That probably is much, much more difficult for it to happen in the Premier League or even in La Liga. I mean, unless obviously you have these exceptions, Kubarsi, Yama, whatever, or if you play for Chelsea, that's a bit different. So I think all these things coming together help explain that there's different paths to getting strength and depth and different pathways to success.
So if I know this is very early, we're like 8 months away
You're not
from the
going
World
to
Cup.
do this.
I'm just going to
Out
say
of these
to
three.
you, out of these three right now, who for you is the most informed? So you can go into England and say, okay, Tuchel still has a lot of work to do. Bellingham, no Bellingham. Who is that midfield with, right? Whatever. But who would you say right now for you is
the closest maybe to what we'll see at the World Cup?
Yeah, right. and then obviously by definition, more likely to win it.
Right. I would have to go with Spain of the three. I would say France are in a pretty strong position as well, because I know what you said about Deschamps taking a handbrake off, but Deschamps is fundamentally super conservative, and his systems are fundamentally, generally pretty simple.
Yeah, but you mentioned the 4-2-4. This is how we're going to play the World Cup.
Yeah, and we've seen a little bit of that before when he puts Griezmann in midfield. It is still kind of a 4-2-4, right? But I think when you're there that long, you necessarily develop a stability inside the system, which might not exist elsewhere, which certainly Thomas Tuchel doesn't have. Surely for England, that's one of the biggest questions.
Yeah.
You mentioned Bellingham there. That's a massive question. The fact that he's a foreign coach, which let's face it, when things don't go well, I mean,
Yeah.
it happened to Southgate too, but it's going to happen
Yeah.
even more so for this guy. So I think he has a lot more issues to sort through and work on, which is understandable because he hasn't been in charge very long. And De La Fuente, by the way, you can say he's only been in charge a couple of years. Yeah, but he's always been within the system.
Yeah, exactly.
At under 21 level and so on.
Sure.
And I think, that also impacts it. Would you agree with that assessment?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I would tip France to win it, obviously, for obvious reasons. But yeah, I think if we go Spain, France, and England, probably are the most likeliest. Yeah, I would agree with you.
All right, enough UEFA big team guff. How about some quick hits instead?
Let's go, Gav.
Speaking of, Kylian Mbappe scores a peach of a goal. And was that Florian Thauvin scoring the third in the 3-0 win over Azerbaijan? Jules, please, and also you need to reassure Real Madrid fans about Mbappe's ankle.
Yeah, it should be fine.
But then you need to tell me about Thauvin because I'm sorry, for those who don't know, Thauvin came into my consciousness early on when he was at Newcastle and he was terrible. And he got into this weird thing where he started showing up to games wearing a smoking jacket, like in black tie, which...
What's wrong with that?
Because it's stupid.
Okay.
Shearer said it wasn't funny the first time. It's not funny that Grumpy Shearer tore him apart on television one day. And then obviously it looked like he'd lost his way. Ends up at Udinese, which is where waifs and strays who lose their way end up showing up at. And now he's moved to Lens over the summer and he's scoring for France.
Yeah, I mean, he got there because of injuries, but still, it was his first call-up since 2019, which was a long time ago. We were not sure if he would play or not because, again, he came in very late because Bradley Barcola was injured and went home. And he got a few minutes on Friday. Scored a lovely goal, by the way. The best goal after the Kylian one of the best goals of the weekend in your international break. And he should start on Monday night away at Iceland in that 4-2-4 that we mentioned earlier, behind Mateta as a striker. So it should be really interesting. But yeah, he's been great with Lens. He's 32 years old now. He's the 93 generation, of course, that won the Under-20 World Cup with Paul Pogba back in 2013. So a long, long way back for him. But yeah, it's lovely. And you know what? He might still be on the plane if he continues like this with Lens in Ligue 1 and if things go his way.
By the way, if he's the 93 generation, and then Laurent, going back to what we were saying before in the podcast segment, and Laurent Blanc was complaining around 2010 about academy products. He's one of those academy products, and so is Paul Pogba. Well, you got a problem with their technical ability?
Yeah, but they were in academies 10 years earlier than that. So.
Well, no, because in 2010 they would have been
20.
Oh,
well, 17
no,
in 2010.
17.
Yeah, but so they started in academy.
Oh, he's talking about 9 and 10-year-olds then.
Well, yeah, he felt that in 2012. You know, the players who were like getting academy at 12, 13, 14. So a great story for Thauvin. Really, really good story. Kylian scored an incredible goal and then got another tackle on his ankle. Nothing to worry about, Real Madrid fans, really. All the scans were fine. He's back in Madrid now. He's obviously not going to play on Monday night in Iceland. And he should be okay for the weekend and certainly for the Champions League next week. And then after
certainly
that,
for the Classico.
Exactly, at the end of the month. Italy win 3-1 away in Estonia, which is good for them, Gabi. But playoffs are even more likely now with the results of Norway. Are you excited about Francesco Pio Esposito, though, who scored a lovely goal, more than Gigio Donnarumma and his, butterfingers?
Yeah, Donnarumma had a moment. I was concerned when Moise Kean goes down. This is the game which I think shows, they're not going to be able to overcome Norway on goal difference.
No.
They would basically need to beat Israel tomorrow night. And one scenario is if they beat them by 9 goals. I will be there in Udine,
Yes.
one of the few people there. And then beat Norway by 5, which, it's
not gonna
possible.
happen,
Ain't going to happen. But yeah, Pio Esposito looks good. He's tall, again, Italian Dzeko. Getting closer to the Italian Dzeko thing. A hat-trick and a missed penalty, technically 2 missed penalties for Erling Braut Haaland in Norway's 5-0 demolition of Israel. Even without Martin Odegaard, they're scary going forward, Jules, especially when Israel defend like this.
Yeah, exactly. I think they were helped by a terrible performance from Israel, especially defensively. You're right, Gabi, but Nusa and Soloth, even the first goal from Haaland, the ball from Soloth is just amazing. So very good, very much clicking for Norway, who will, as you said, top that group and go to the World Cup for the first time since 1998, and
since Jan Åge Fjørtoft was there,
and that World Cup in France, which they should have really qualified before for Euros or World Cups. It was a big failure that they didn't do. So they will do now, and it'd be very interesting to see what Haaland does at the World Cup.
By the way, those Norway shirts, if you haven't seen them, are hideous, and whoever designed them, whoever approved them, belongs in
The
prison.
away one is not as bad, maybe. Cristiano Ronaldo has his penalty saved by Kevin Kelleher, but Portugal get the last laugh thanks to Ruben Neves. Injury time winner. Gab, did you expect Cristiano to Panenka better? Although it's not really a Panenka.
I didn't. Well, it was supposed to be Panenka.
I don't think
he hits it too hard for it to be.
Yeah, so he hits it in the middle. It's not. It doesn't. There's no trying to deceive the keeper by chip it when you think that you're going to hit it.
I don't know though, because if you're going to hit it down the middle like that, you either have to hit it at a higher. You have to hit it higher because you know the goalkeeper is going to dive. If he bites, right?
Yeah.
That's what I mean. If you don't want to call it Panenka, if you wanted to just hit it down the middle, then you have to hit it slower so that he's gone, or you have to chip it more effectively. But yeah, like he scored enough penalties in his career, right? I don't think we should nitpick about this. I thought Portugal should have scored more and actually played well. And they got what they deserved. All right, Jules, we're not done because we have more quick hits. Now, we talked about how the three bookmakers' favorites for 2026 are all European. 4 and 5 are, not surprisingly, Brazil and Argentina. Let's start with the world champions. No Lionel Messi, because he was busy doing something in MLS. There were some changes. And the result was a 1-0 win over Venezuela in a friendly Miami.
Yeah, it was. Gabi, the front two of Lautaro and Julian Alvarez was still pretty tasty, to be fair, in that 4-4-2. And I think they did the job. They should have scored more goals, really, and they were still good with the ball. Nothing that Venezuela, who are not very good, let's be honest here, could have done to this team. But I guess for the momentum, it's good that you can win without Messi because you just don't know of his fitness. When the World Cup comes, he might not play every minute of every game. So you need also a plan B. And for a plan B, this was just okay.
And we got to see some Nico Paz.
Yeah, Nico Paz on the right side of that 4-4-2. Yeah, and meanwhile, Brazil go all the way to Seoul and beat South Korea 5-0. God, we saw a new setup from Carlo Ancelotti.
Yeah, but we thought 4-2-4 is on vogue. You know what? It's all down to Rino Gattuso. I think it was one of the first people to play because they needed goals. But yeah, it's Cunha with Vinicius.
Yeah.
And then you've got Rodri on the left and Estevao, who I think is phenomenal. Guy gets better every time you see him.
It's got 2 goals.
On the right, it worked very, very well.
Very well.
Now, Korea were terrible. It was also raining. That's not an excuse.
No.
It looks like they have a lot of things to sort out, frankly. The big question will be, can you carry this 4-2-4 in a World Cup setting? I mean, forget the players because they may change. They have other options. I wouldn't mind seeing João Pedro in there, for example. But the question is, if it's Bruno Guimaraes and Casemiro on their own, is that enough? But for now, I think it totally gives everybody a lift. And
that's the good thing. You've got plenty of friendlies to try different things and prepare for the World Cup now.
Yeah. The one thing with Brazil, I don't know how many automatic choices Ancelotti has. And I think this also kind of lights a fire under people's backsides. I don't think there's any more than 2 or 3 players who know they will start at the World Cup. And I think that's a good position to be in.
Yeah, that's fair.
Monaco have sacked Adi Hütter, Jules. Now, they're 3 points from first place. They drew against Manchester City. And yes, they drew in the derby against Nice, blah, blah, blah. And they lost to Lorient too. But and what do you make of his replacement, Sebastian Pocognoli? Who was previously at hipster darling Union Saint-Gilloise.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I think this is a very interesting choice. They kind of did the same a little bit with Philippe Clement when they got him at the club. And although there were some good moments, in the end, didn't really work out. Hütter stayed 2 years. And I think what frustrated Rybolovlev, who's the Monaco owner, on this one is that you're right. It's not a bad start of the season, really. Although they got also spanked in the first game of the Champions League away at Bruges, so they have 1 point in 2 games in the Champions League. It's more that there was so much inconsistency in what they were producing on the pitch, despite having a good squad. Okay,
a lot of injuries too.
They have a lot of injuries. That's very true. But still, even when players were all fit, it was not always pretty, really. And I don't think at the club they saw the direction that this team was taking under Hütter. They thought about sacking him last year already anyway. So I think it was just a matter of time, really. So for Pocognoli, he's very young. He's 39. You remember he played for West Brom here and Brighton. highly rated in Belgium, very, very smart guy, big football IQ. Kevin Miralas, the former Everton, Saint-Etienne player, who is his best friend. They grew up together. They were at school together, played football when they were 8 years old together, were at the Academia Standard together too. Will be his assistant. Let's see. I'm excited because I like young managers and I want to see them do and well, ideally, but we'll see.
And to be clear, that was the reason he was let go. It was not pressure from the fans because there are none in Monaco.
FIFA President Gianni Infantino has asked football to keep an open mind and said October and March are the only month where football can be played anywhere around the world. Gab, what was he saying?
Okay, so he's basically saying this. I think he's kind of laying the groundwork for saying we don't need to have World Cup in the summer. In fact,
Yeah.
we already kind of lost our virginity there a little bit with Qatar. It's a global game. Back
true.
when it was only Europe and South America, sure, it was very easy, but things are different in other parts of the world. He's not saying he wants to play World Cup in October and March, but he says generally these are the only places where most of the world plays football.
Yeah.
So do you want us to play it then? No, obviously, because it would screw up the leagues. And by the way, I'm not sure how much fun it would be playing football in Montreal in March.
No,
like,
definitely
I don't
not.
think they
Not a
do
good
that.
idea, yeah.
So he's saying, maybe we play at different times, maybe, and he mentioned June in Europe, for example. He says July in Europe can get really hot. June is a little more manageable. Is he maybe sending a message to maybe some of the league seasons could end a little bit sooner? But then the only way you can do that, unless you want to start playing even earlier, like in late July, is reducing the teams, which is something many people like me would like to see, but realistically isn't going to happen. Jude Bellingham was left out of the England team who beat Wales in a friendly and take on Latvia in a few hours. So let's talk about other Bellingham-related stuff. Jules, he fed a giraffe at the Madrid Zoo.
What?
And there's pictures of him with a giraffe. It's really cute.
Okay.
And he was left out of the official Real Madrid calendar along with Trent Alexander-Arnold. It's a bit weird, isn't it?
Is it?
Conspiracy? Well, there's 12 months. And
Yeah,
there's players on the cover.
25 players.
Alvaro Carreras is there. Yeah, but wouldn't you think you would put your most important players in the calendar?
Yeah, although maybe there's another problem with image rights and the fact that Jude Bellingham might not want to be on a calendar.
Not want to be in a Real Madrid calendar.
Because you're not making any money out of it, maybe?
I would hope it's not that.
Well, I don't know, but I don't know who makes the decision. I mean, I bet the giraffe was very happy that Jude Bellingham was showing a lot of love and care and feeding her if he was allowed. I'm not sure if he was allowed. Are you allowed to feed the animals in the zoo?
I don't. I'm assuming he got permission.
I'm sure he got permission. So I'm glad to see that he's using this break to make the most of it and do things that he would not have had time to do really, usually, if you think about it, if he'd been with England, for example. So,
yeah,
why not? And meanwhile, UEFA President Alexander Seferin, speaking at the Portugal Football Summit earlier last week, says that they are studying a more interesting format, Gab, for Euros and World Cup qualifiers. Do you sense a Swiss model, like some sort of league phase there?
There's a whole working group on this, and one of the things that they are considering is a Swiss model, like we see in the Champions League or the Europa League, for example. You'd only play people once, but you would have different tiers and pots and levels and whatnot. So
you also have to make sure that all the top countries qualify, right? Because this would be the idea.
There's 24 qualifying for the Euros, and there's 1 million, but possibly not Italy qualifying for the World Cup. So, I mean, I think, the one thing with the Swiss model, even more so with national teams, is you could really get an imbalance of schedule, right?
Yeah.
So they'd have to be smart about that. But I'm glad they're considering it because let's face it, it's kind of boring for most teams.
It's good.
And if you're Italy, it's unpleasant. Holland beat up Finland 4-0 as my boy Memphis Depay. The whole effing show stars once again. Joe, some love for Ronald Koeman, a.k.a. the original Dutch guy?
No, definitely not. Gabby, they played against him that I would have scored against, really, the two games that they won easily.
If you played up front instead of Memphis Depay, you would have scored.
If I'd have played behind Memphis Depay with Cody Gakpo on one side and, Frimpong was there on the other side. Reinders got a bit of a rest. Virgil van Dijk scored. So, all in all, it was a very good week for the Dutch and the Dutch guy. Joshua Kimmich scores 2 and Germany beat Luxembourg, who go down to 10 men after 20 minutes 4-0. But Gab, more importantly, what do you make of this campaign to try to bring back Manuel Neuer?
So it started with Lothar Matthäus, and now it's like percolated everywhere. And part of the issue is obviously Marc-Andre Ter Stegen is injured again. and they don't seem to like Baumann. Nubel hasn't quite turned into what they thought he was going to turn into. Urbig, who they seem to like, can't get a game because Neuer's there. And he's saying, now that would be a legit last dance if Neuer came back.
Yeah, sure.
I think it speaks to deeper malaise with Germany, where they're not confident at all. They're not even confident of straight qualification. Of course, they have this game coming up now against Northern Ireland. I think it's not in a good place. Now, my concern with Neuer is this is not the Manuel Neuer of the past. A few big wins when you're running up the score in the Bundesliga is one thing. I need to see him under pressure. I don't know. I'd even reconsider somebody like Bernd Leno before I would bring Neuer back.
Yeah.
Jules, a contestant on Germany's version of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
That's right.
That takes me way back. Anyway, he got this question wrong, despite using his lifeline.
Okay.
I know you're competitive.
Yes.
I know that you know your World Cup. So I'm going to challenge you.
Okay.
Which of these 4 results is the most common in a men's World Cup final?
Wow.
1-0, 3-1,
Yeah.
2-1, or 4-2?
Yes. And we count extra time after extra time. Okay. So, I mean, especially here in England, the most famous World Cup final is 66 and that 4-2 win against West Germany. It's obviously the score that France also beat Croatia in 2018 to win our last World Cup. And if am I not mistaken, the first 2 World Cups finished 4-2, or certainly the first one finished 4-2.
First one, and I think Italy, 34.
Italy won, So I'm leaning 4-2, although they're probably not much because there's at least 3 1-0s, including 2 after extra time. 2014 for sure. And
is that your final answer? 4-2.
So you know what? I would say there's probably 3 1-0s. 4-2 is definitely my answer. But I reckon there's probably 3 1-0s. 3-1. I would go 4-2, but 1-0 is close, maybe, no?
It is 4-2, and you're right.
Come
on.
It
is close. I think it's 4-3, I believe. Well done. And by the way, I did not give him the answer beforehand, nor did I let him
No cheating.
I asked him.
Pure memory.
Do you want me to give you the answer so that you don't look stupid on the show?
But I almost said 1-0, to be fair. I thought 1-0.
Well done. Well done.
Back to Gianni Infantino, Gabby, who says that US President Donald Trump definitely deserves the Nobel Peace Prize, which he didn't get, as we know. But Gab, are you surprised how often the FIFA president weighs in on political issues lately?
Yeah, so I think one thing we should probably make clear, as the Nobel Committee told us, the votes were in on Monday morning, and I believe the peace deal was announced later in the day. He can still win it. He just wins it a year from now, especially if it holds. So it wasn't going to happen this time just because it was materially not possible. The lady in Colombia, in Venezuela won it. Look, this is normal. I think it's normal. It's probably normal in the past. It's just that because Infantino is so public and Trump is so public, we notice this more. But it was like this with the Emir. Just the Emir never speaks.
Yeah.
Right. And it was like that with Putin as well. They're working together. They're running a massive business, something that they think is going to generate in excess of 10 billion next summer. They have to work together. And so, I'm not surprised. He blows a little smoke.
Of course, always,
Steven Gerrard has reportedly turned down the Rangers gig, vacant since the departure of the very handsome Russell Martin. Now, apparently, they're looking at Michael Carrick.
Yeah.
So it's not a great situation. The guy running at Parag, who's also involved with the 49ers, is a smart guy. I know that because I know people who met him. Michael Carrick sounds like a safer pair of hands than Martin, and frankly, than Stevie G as well.
Yeah, I liked what he did at Middlesbrough. I mean, not all of it, but there was certainly some very positive stuff that he did there. I think it'd be very interesting. I mean, Sean Dyche has also been linked. Barry Ferguson, who came in at the end of last season to kind of steady the ship after Philippe Clement. I can't even remember who came in and got sacked. I like Carrick a lot. I think this is a tough situation. It's a tough job. Not that Celtic are doing much better than Rangers. I mean, they are, but Rangers are 8th in the table, so there's a lot of teams doing better than them, including Hearts, who are top of the table. But I think it would be interesting for him to get it. You get to play in Europe, for example, which Carrick has never really done, certainly not as a number one. So,
but he's done a lot as a player.
Yeah, as a player, but as a coach, I think it'd be part of his learning process. I think it'd probably be good. So I want to see him there. And staying with Rangers, Gab, their former director of football, Ross Wilson, who was most recently at Nottingham Forest, has finally been appointed to take over on the Newcastle job.
Yeah, we talked about this whole the fact that Newcastle went through the summer without a chief executive, and they have one now. Hopkinson, I believe, is his name. He's the son of David Hopkin, the former Crystal Palace midfielder. No, that's stupid. Stupid joke.
Okay.
David Hopkinson. Anyway.
Hopkins' son. Okay.
Yeah. And they haven't had a technical director or director of football or any kind of recruitment guy since Mitchell left. And that is a real issue in the summer because while I want Eddie Howe coaching my team, possibly, I do not want Eddie Howe being involved in recruitment because that is a full-time, whole other job, and he's busy enough with the first team. So it's critical they get this in. Weirdly, he's also the guy who took Elliot Anderson to Nottingham Forest.
Yes.
And Delonga, of course, the other way. So that there's a whole relationship there already. Yeah. I think it's obvious that Wilson wasn't going to continue once you had the whole kind of shake-up with Edu taking a more prominent role.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good for Ross Wilson. Let's see what he can do.
Yeah, I like him a lot. So it's a good job for him.
Mexico lose their friendly to Colombia 4-0. Jules, we can continue to pick on El Tri's problems.
Yes.
Or we can celebrate the technical magnificence of James Rodriguez, who I thought was 40, but he's not. He's only 34 years old.
Only, you say, only. Yeah, 4 assists on the 4 goals, whether it was set pieces, through balls, just everything. They were outstanding. I mean, I think Mexico were really bad, but Colombia were outstanding. James was outstanding. Luis Diaz was outstanding. It was just, I think they will be a force at the World Cup. You know, whatever they play, they will have huge support, you would think. And they run a lot. They work so hard. They're good technically. They're good physically. It's just, incredible.
James Rodriguez never became what he could have become because he has the mobility of a fire hydrant. However, when it comes to striking the ball and passing it,
and vision,
he's still top 5 or 10
absolutely.
in the world. Just in that little, but very important quality.
Yeah. The United States and Ecuador battled to a 1-1 draw in a friendly. Marcelo Pochettino mixes it up, and they look pretty good.
Yeah, Ecuador also mixed it up. We should mention there was no Moises Caicedo, who is kind of half the team. Not because the rest of the team is poor, but because he's so good. So you need to take that with a caveat. But given the way things have been going for Pochettino to have a team out there without Pulisic, who only played the last 20 minutes, without Tyler Adams, to be able to go a goal down, to react, to impose themselves. I mean, I thought they were the better team. They might have won this game. I think is a good sign for Poch.
I agree.
The Faroe Islands have now won 3 games in a row in World Cup qualifying. Jules, I never thought I'd utter these words, but I have to do that as they beat the Czech Republic 2-1.
Yeah, now they're just a point behind the Czech Republic. Croatia are going to win this group pretty easily. The Faroe Islands are just a point behind Czechia, who were terrible, I think, in the last 2 games. The next game, Faroe Islands have to go to Croatia, which is going to be difficult, obviously. So that's the last game of the group. So they need something pretty special to finish in that second spot that will take them into the playoff. But it's amazing for them, simply just in terms of progress. And we talked a lot about the Nations League and what the good that the Nations League could do. I really believe that this kind of form from a team like Faroe Islands is also because they also play against teams of their kind of level and strength, which make them improve. And then when they play against tougher team like Croatia or Czechia, they're more ready for it.
It can't be overstated enough. These little ditty teams, and I have San Marino on my doorstep in Italy. So when they go out and they play against anybody who's ranked in the top 150 in the world or whatever, it's the 8-1-1 kick him to lumps formation, also employed. We've seen in Andorra does the same thing. Now that they can play other little guys, they say, hey, let's do something with the ball. So it gives them a dimension that can come in handy. I mean, of course, they'll still park the bus against the big teams, but they can also switch it up. Thank you. Nations League, I think one of the best innovations we've seen from football's governing bodies in the last 20 years.
Czechia play at home to Gibraltar in that last game. So while
no pressure there.
Yeah, no pressure there, Serbia lose at home to Albania 1-0, and our friend Silvino and Dragan Stojkovic is out of a job, Gab, finally. I mean, come on. This was coming.
He's much better at playing football than at giving people's instructions. Playing football, maybe even today, than he is at giving people instructions on how to play. Serbia remain a team that's loaded. they should be qualifying for every World Cup. I mean,
Yeah.
at least either play. Obviously, with
Yeah,
England's group, maybe playoffs. This shouldn't have been in doubt. Well done to Albania.
Great win.
Poor Dusan Vlahovic up front with Mitrovic, and they can't get them the ball.
No.
They're going to finish third in the group. Not acceptable. Jordan Pickford could soon get a new contract at Everton, and he has broken Gordon Banks' England record of consecutive clean sheets with 8. This sounds like one of those like Cristiano Ronaldo stats, like goals on a Tuesday. But still, yeah. Are you impressed, Jules, or is this kind of fugazi?
Please don't give me the line of Pickford is as good as Gordon Banks. You mentioned earlier when we were doing the our combined 11 and things like that, and you kindly wrote it as a note for me. Banks in those games where he kept a clean sheet, where Yugoslavia, I mean, as in proper Yugoslavia,
when they were all together, that's true, young ones. There was a time when the best Croatians, the best Slovenians, the best Bosnians, the best Serbs, the best Montenegrins all got together and created a super team. Exactly. They were really good.
Yeah, Yugoslavia, Finland, Poland, Uruguay, Mexico, France, and Argentina for Banks. And then you look at Greece, Ireland, Albania, Latvia, Andorra again, as if it once was not enough. Serbia and Wales. No offense to those teams, but it's not the same. Come on. But Pickford is a good keeper. He deserves a new deal at Everton.
Sheets against what's in front of you.
Exactly. The AST, Arsenal Supporters Trust, have urged the club not to price out fans as they consider a 20,000 seat expansion at the Emirates, Gab.
Yeah, look, this is inevitable. Obviously, they represent the supporters, and it's a consideration, and it's going to be way down the road. It would be, that would take the Emirates up beyond 80,000.
Yeah,
and it would make them bigger even than White Hart Lane.
Yes.
There's like a couple hundred seats more, I think.
Right?
Yeah. I think the thinking here, 80,000, filling out 80,000 every week is not easy. It's not easy. It's a task, right?
Yeah.
There's 3 teams in Europe that manage to do that regularly. I think as I understand it, the way this could make sense for Arsenal is, clubs operate on the 3-2-1 model in the sense that you get sort of 3/6 of your income from prize money, broadcasting, blah, 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 2/6 or 1/3 from commercial, and 1/6 from gate receipts. So if you want to increase that, and you're increasing a small percentage, rather than jacking up prices for these 20,000 new seats, and this is what I think they're going to do, is they're going to have more corporates, more hospitalities in that area, and that allows you to then not increase prices elsewhere. Because the reality is, if you bump up somebody's per game ticket, even by £5, they're going to grumble. Because it makes a big difference to the individual season ticket holder. Whereas you do it to corporates and you give them more value, which I'm assuming is what they're trying to do, then it makes sense. But personally, I like the stadium as it is. Inter Miami roll over Atlanta United 4-0. Another 2 goals and an assist for that Lionel Messi.
Yeah, the assist is for Jordi Alba, who's announced his retirement, obviously, recently, at the end of the season. It's the pass that you've seen a million. If you've been watching Barcelona and Inter Miami for years, Barcelona especially, and them to play together, this is a pass that they've done so many times. The run from Alba, picked by Messi. To be fair, Alba gave the assist back on Messi's second goal. Messi on fire, 26 goals in 27 games this season. I think overall, since he joined Inter Miami, he's got something like 110 goal contribution in 70 games. It's just ridiculous how good he's been for them, how much better than anybody else in that league. To be fair, we had that discussion, do you remember, not that long ago, about Messi and is he really good for your league when somebody, I know he's the GOAT, but at 38, have this kind of impact. Thomas Müller, who could not really get a game too much for Bayern Munich, and certainly that kind of performance is tearing up for Vancouver as well. Heung-min Son is on fire with Los Angeles, when, again, last season was a very poor season for him in Europe, for his standards. It's great for MLS to have them and in that kind of form, or is it, really?
Yeah, and I think the players who tend to succeed, it's not really about technical ability, because Thomas Muller is one of them.
Yeah.
I think maybe it's also about position. We've seen midfielders sometimes struggle more. Think back to Peel and Lampard and Gerrard to a degree as well. I don't know what it says about the league that somebody can walk in at 38, even the GOAT. And just be so absolutely dominant. You know what? We should settle. Actually, I'm giving you an idea here.
Go on.
Why don't Saudi Pro League and MLS say, all right, our 10 best teams against your 10 best teams. We'll play once a month
Yeah.
Once in the US, once in Saudi. We just go head to head. Obviously, you're going to fix it so that Inter Miami play Al Nassr at some point.
Okay.
I know. And let's see who wins.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I mean, my guess off the top of my head, but I don't know because I don't follow Saudi Pro League as close as others. MLS might just edge it because it feels like there's a big gap between the top 4 or 5 teams.
Yeah, for sure.
If
you take the
Pro
top
League.
5, it'd probably be the Saudis.
Yeah. If you make it
You
a
go
top
up top 10, yeah.
screw it. Make it the top 16. Whatever.
Yeah,
That's
I
an
like to see
idea.
that.
Hey, look,
Yeah.
there's people with money who can fund this, right?
Yeah. What about your best Saudi League 11 against your best MLS 11?
So my issue with that is then that becomes like an all-star game. It's not real football because it's not.
No,
a
no,
real
I
team.
know,
You're
I know,
chucking
but-
people together. Yeah, that would just be a money-making spectacle. I actually think neither one would want to do it because they'd be terrified. What if something
lose,
happens?
for the
and
losers.
we
Oh,
lose
yeah,
4-0
yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
and then the whole house of cards
Yeah,
shatters.
yeah,
But
very
if you
true.
do it over 10 games, 10 different teams, you could have an argument.
Yeah, that's very true. Let's turn to Asian qualifying now, Gab. They are in the 4th round. It's a bit more complicated in there.
So complicated.
Saudi Arabia have qualified for the 5th round. Yeah, that's right. There's another round. And Qatar need to avoid defeat against the UAE to go to the 5th round as well. UAE are already qualified now for
The 5th round.
for the 5th round, not for the World Cup, for the 5th round. This is just for the 5th round of their qualifiers when they play Oman. So just
So
make it simple for us. And 2 of them will miss out anyway.
yeah, so there's 5 rounds. All of them could miss out.
Yeah,
Your
true,
prize
sorry,
at the end of these 5 rounds is you get to go into the Interconfederation playoffs, and you don't know who you're playing yet because there's going to be 2 teams from CONCACAF, 1 team from Asia, 1 team from CONMEBOL, 1 team basically one team from every confederation other than UEFA.
Yeah, so New Caledonia already are that team. for
right.
Oceania.
So we know that.
And Bolivia, I think it is Bolivia finished 7th in South America. I think they are.
There you go.
So and then the
So-
others we don't know.
Okay, so first of all, imagine playing Bolivia. So obviously the teams you don't want to play, Bolivia and whoever qualifies from Africa for obvious reasons, right?
Yes.
Yeah, let's go play at altitude. Won't that be fun, right? What I find remarkable is that we have the country that hosted the World Cup in 2022 and spent a ton of money to host it, and another country that has also spent a ton of money on football and is going to host it in 2034 in Saudi Arabia. One of these 2 is going to miss out necessarily.
Yeah, necessarily.
And I find that pretty remarkable. And I think they should take a look at what they've been doing internally and really figure out what was wrong. And Saudi, if you just want to blame Roberto Mancini for everything, go ahead. 2 more qualifiers from Africa, Jules.
Yes.
2.5 since Cape Verde played this evening, and they're very close too.
Very close.
Big congratulations to Algeria and Ghana.
Yes, exactly. Algeria for the first time since 2014, making it to the World Cup. A bit like Italy. They also missed the last 2. Petkovic is the coach
Unlike
now.
Italy, they haven't won the World Cup 4 times. But
No,
yes,
I know, I'm just
they're
saying.
a bit like Italy.
It was just to tease you, really. But well done to Algeria and Riyad Mahrez, who was outstanding in the game that got them to qualify. It's the first time in history, Gab, that we'll have Algeria, Tunisia, and Morocco all at the World Cup at the same time. They never qualified, all of them North African countries. So well done to all 3 of them. Ghana, of course, who've made now 5 of the last 6 World Cup, including 2026, were there. Mohamed Kudus scored that winning goal. I mean, they were in the driving seat anyway. And you mentioned Cape Verde, which would be incredible. 500,000 population only for Cape Verde. It would be their first World Cup, obviously, joining the likes of Jordan, Uzbekistan already qualified for their first ever. So that would be pretty special to see them there. They have had good results at AFCONs before, but never been part to the World Cup. So that would be really special.
Yeah, they would be the 2nd smallest country to qualify.
Yeah.
Although there might be a twist later. So that would be after Iceland. So Cape Verde
Yes.
could be the Iceland of
course.
Africa.
Exactly. And if we stick with CAF, Gabby, all eyes are on Group C this week.
I am emotionally invested in
Of
this group,
course.
of course, because it's the one where my Super Eagles, Nigeria, are in. It is so tight at the top. Now, bear in mind, South Africa, they had to forfeit a game because they played an ineligible player.
Yeah, that's right.
This has got to be one of the most boneheaded moves in history. Patrice
Completely.
Motsepe, the head of the Confederation of African Football. I mean, he must have flames coming out of his ears. So they were dot points. So they're on 15 points. And at the weekend, they were held to a draw by Zimbabwe. Again, Zimbabwe, you expect South Africa to wipe the floor with
Completely.
Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
Benin, who topped the group, they're on 17 points. They got a late winner away to Rwanda. Nigeria, they were cruising 2-0 against Lesotho. Again, Lesotho, tiny mountain country. They had a real scare because Lesotho scored to make it pull one back towards the end. And they had one of those typical wild flights home, cracked windshield in the plane and whatnot. But it's all going to come down to later this week. South Africa hosting Rwanda. So they could go top of the group and qualify automatically if Nigeria beat Benin, because Nigeria on 14 points, Benin on 17. That Nigeria game is oil in Nigeria.
Yeah.
So much tension. So much tension. And you know what?
So.
And if you finish second, there's no guarantees again because only some of the second place groups, some of the
best four.
Yeah. Those guys go into the playoffs. Yeah. So, man, it's tight. Curacao beat Jamaica 2-0 in CONCACAF to go top of their group. Jules, we're only halfway through the group stage, but we're talking about a country of just 160,000 people. They're even smaller. They're less than half as big as Iceland.
Yeah, incredible. What a story this would be if they were to make it to the World Cup. You know who's their head coach is?
I do not.
Dick Advocaat, because there's a huge Dutch influence on them. Obviously, a former colony, historically, but in this team as well, because pretty much all the players, or not all the players, I'm being a bit mean here, but most of the players are also Dutch nationals. So do you remember Richie Bazoer?
Of course.
He plays for them. The Bakunia brothers played for them. Tai Chong, who played for Manchester United, is also an international. Locadia plays for them. Obispo, who currently plays for PSV Eindhoven, is the best defender. So they have a lot of talent. They're stacked of talent, And Indonesia has done a little bit the same with a lot of Dutch players, not as high profile as the one I mentioned. To explain Indonesia's very good results so far in the qualifiers, although they're not going to qualify.
Of course, Indonesia and Curacao, former Dutch colonies. Wonder if Suriname is going to get really good.
I don't think they've got as much Dutch influence in their current team as Curacao and Dick Advocaat. So it was Steve McLaren who was on the bench for Jamaica against Dick Advocaat on the bench for Curacao. Awesome. That was pretty awesome.
And by the way, Dick Advocaat, can we say we don't lump him together with the other Dutch coaches, right? No, he's not a Dutch guy.
He's got
legit.
Great hair too.
And he's not bald.
Yeah, exactly. Eva Pajot limped off in tears after injuring her knee in Barcelona's 6th win over Atletico Madrid this weekend in the La Liga Femini, and it's not looking good for her at all, Gab.
No, it's not looking good at all. Early reports, she's going to undergo scans. It's a suspected ACL, which would obviously leave her out for a very long time. From Barcelona's perspective, obviously Barcelona are stacked, and I think they can probably metabolize this loss and still be competitive.
Yeah, but
because it's a deep squad.
No, slim squad. They have 16 players right now.
But they have 16 exceptional players.
Yeah, true. But you see what I mean? It's not Chelsea or Arsenal.
No, I know, but so I did the show when you were gone last week with Don, and we both watched them in the Champions League, and it's like they're playing a different sport.
Yeah,
they beat Bayern by 1,000,000 to nothing or to 1 or whatever. But yeah, numbers wise, and it's funny with all the reports about Barcelona, scaling back to comply with a PSR equivalent rules and the salary cap in Spain. A lot of these women, they haven't renewed their contracts beyond the season. You just really, I'm not a Barcelona fan. I'm kind of rooting for them if this is it. This is kind of like a last hurrah type situation.
I agree.
Eva Pajot is obviously a huge loss for them.